we fighting for, brothers? We're fighting for a righteous world. 2 Peter 3:13. We're fighting for a world of total righteousness. We're fighting for a world where we're going to be exalted, where we're going to be lauded, where we're going to be praised as the people of the Most High, as the Israelites, as the elect of the nation of Israel. Think about that, man. The elect of the nation of Israel, part of the 144,000. Think about that. Huh? That alone should inspire you. There's even a song, man, oh, when the saints come marching in. We're those saints that's going to come marching in. Oh, I want to be in that number. We're in that number. We believe that according to faith. Come on, brothers.
Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. And what I want to go into today, dealing with, this current rulership of Esau Edom. All right. And most people are deceived, that their government is a democracy, in which, the democracy, goes into the rule of many, all right, where the population, all right, the common people, okay, have, the power and the say-so in government. Okay, they have a voice, okay, in government affairs. You see, the direction of, the country, the nation, okay, and democracy has been an illusion, okay, from its inception, all right, because the Constitution was written by, all right, these particular Edomite men, and it was written in their favor, okay, and it always, Americans' foundation, okay, was rooted in corruption. Now, it's way more corrupt, than it is way more corrupt now than when it started, but there was always corruption from the beginning, okay? It was rooted in corruption, all right? And it was a Edomite male-friendly, okay, document. This whole thing they call the Constitution, you see? And now as it has become completely corrupted to where, they ran a democracy into the ground. Now what's coming to the forefront, all right, is an oligarchy. All right, and we're going to get into that. We went into this before, but this video is inspired by a video done by the beloved elder apostle Gabar. He mentioned one of his live streams. I want to say yesterday. Well, it was Friday. I think it was Friday. Afternoon. He was going into it, and he mentioned, oligarchy. Okay, or maybe it was from the live speaking. Maybe, but it was mentioned by the beloved elder apostle Gabar. Okay, and I just want to go into it. Because there's the biggest misconception, okay, is that America is ran by democracy. All right. But you had the oligarchs always in the background. Okay. In each generation, they will gain more and more power of government to the point now that the government works for the oligarchs. There was a time when government did regulate, even though it was corrupted. Okay. The government did, regulate the oligarchs to a degree. Okay. But now we're in a time where the oligarchs have full control of the government, and everything that's being done, okay, is to forward the agenda of the oligarchs and the oligarchs only. That's why there's nothing being done for the common American people. Okay. Trump was the biggest switching bait in history, man. All right. Trump was the biggest switching bait by these elites, okay, in history, man. All right, because he ran on Make America Great Again. Okay, he ran on, the conservative working class family. Okay, the Christian values and so forth and so on. All right, and he got in there and did the exact opposite. Day one, he introduced you to the oligarchs. Okay, or the mascots of the oligarchs. Okay, because these little dweebs, that we see, Peter Thiel and Sam Altman, all right, they're part of these oligarch, all right, families, but they're not the head of those families. Okay, they're just the front men, the mascots, all right, used, okay, you see, for the public. Okay, but what Trump is introducing you Americans to is the oligarchies, all right, they run the earth. Okay, they run America. Okay, your vote doesn't matter, doesn't count. Okay, your city, you vote for your city officials, you vote for, your county officials, superintendent, zone 3, and district 8. Okay, this Supreme Court judge and this federal judge, and and people think, all right, that they have some type of sway in government, and they don't. Okay, and I got a video, Aristotle, he breaks it down, and you're gonna see, all right, that those ancient oligarchs of the Greeks, okay, Rome had them, okay, various empires have always had oligarchs that ruled from the shadows, okay, they had sway on monarchs, okay, but now what we see is that these oligarchs have fully taken over government. All right. And their agenda is a new world order. The new world order agenda is the agenda of the oligarchs. And that's why you come in Edomites, okay, you're just being pushed into, all right, the pen with the rest of the goyim, the rest of the cattle. Okay. That's why they're diminishing all these social classes, middle, upper middle, rich. No, you're going into the pen with the rest of the goyim. Okay. That's why the money is intentionally being, okay, destroyed. This is the old economic system. Okay, this new economic system is going to get the oligarchs way more control. Okay, control on another level because their desire is to be likened unto the Most High. Okay, and this devil thinks that through technology, special AI, he can pull that off. Okay, and they keep these few, all right, wealthy families, okay, in rulership forever. Now let's go here. Let's get this in the book of Sirach. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 14 and verse 3, it says, riches are not comely for a niggard. And what shall an envious man do with money? Okay? So when you go into, all right, this word niggard, it says riches are not comely. Like it's not a good thing, okay, for a niggard to be wealthy, okay? Because through wealth he can get power, all right? And when the niggard has power, and this is what, these Edomites are, they're niggards in power, okay? So let's get this word real quick, niggard, all right? So niggard real quick means someone who's stingy or ungenerous person, okay? And you see how these devils run this money system, okay? When you go into the money system and how, all right, it works, okay? It's a very niggard system and niggerly system. This word niggerly, okay, to where all the wealth trickles to, a small percent at the top, the 1%. Over 90% of the wealth, okay, trickles to 1% of the population, okay? And the rest of the world has to, go to war, all right, destroy themselves and chase the other 10%, and this nigga trying to figure out how to take more. Okay, this new world order is a system where he takes more. Okay, it's crazy off balance. Okay, the way this man runs the Earth's economy, man, is already crazy unbalanced, man. Okay, but this nigga wants, all right, to set up a system that's gonna take more. It's like going. That's why scriptures say this nigga can never be satisfied, man. Okay, this is a complete niggard. Okay, that's in power. You see? Let's go here. Let's go back here. This is back in Sirach 14 and 4. It says, he that gathereth by defrauding his own soul, gathereth for others, that shall spend his good righteously, man. Righteously. Okay, because what we're seeing now, the children, all right, or these elite families, that became wealthy centuries ago. And America was a big cash cow, for these families, these wealthy, all right, these elite Edomite families. Okay, America was a cash cow, all right, and that's why they set up America as a corrupt system. Okay, and they have milked America dry. You see, and now we're, in a time where the children of these Edomite families, all right, these oligarchs, okay, and they're just wilding out. They're all over the place, man. Okay, and their main thing that they want to spend their goods on is this new world order, which that's crazy. Okay, because this devil, when it comes to his AI, all right, money ain't a thing. Okay, AI gets a blank check. You see, but when it comes to running, his empire and food, okay, you know, anything that builds people up, that will build people up, that will build up society, that will create, wealth for the coming man, or structure, or order, or peace, or true security, and anything righteous. This nigga has no money for. Okay, but this wicked new world order, this nigga has all the money. Okay, he spares not a dollar, man. Okay, it says, he that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? And see, even amongst these oligarchs, all right, these niggas done schemed and plotted for centuries. Okay, and now these niggas finna fall out. They are falling out, man. And that's why you see, the earth being ran in so much chaos, which they push chaos intentionally. But then also when you see how this nigga moving, man, you can tell this tension between these oligarchs, these different families, man. Okay, they get closer to trying to achieve their new world order, man. Okay, so this nigga's not even good amongst the niggas he's stealing with, man. These these other oligarch families, man. He's not even, you know, they scheme for all these centuries, and now, all right, they're falling out with each other. They're scheming and plotting on each other, man. Okay, so this nigga is not even good to his own people. You know, these common Edomites. All right, they fall out amongst each other. Okay, amongst these elite classes. So who can he be good to, man? Okay, because money doesn't satisfy this nigga. Power don't satisfy this nigga. He can never be satisfied. So who the hell can he be good to, man? Okay, it says he shall not take pleasure in his goods. There is none worse than he that envieth himself, and this is a recompense of his wickedness. Okay, so this devil, his system is finna implode, which is to fall on itself because it's rooted in wickedness, and these niggas really envious of each other, man. Okay, that's why World War III, all right, is at the door, man. And the Lord has orchestrated this from the beginning, and He made Esau to be proud and ambitious, which is the recipe for self-destruction, man. All right, and these devils always fight. They always plot and scheme for a while, and then they fall out. Okay, every government, every superpower that Esau Edom has ever had in the earth, okay, they always fall out and go to war. World War I, World War II, World War III, okay, that's coming up. Okay, it's been these Edomites at the top. Okay, they fall out. Then wars are racket for them too. Okay, because they capitalize off everything, even their own disagreements. They capitalize off of, man. Okay, so let's go here because I want to get this video real quick. All right, and this goes back to Aristotle. Okay, and you're going to see the similarities of this government of today. Okay, so let's play this.
Imagine a society where the wealthiest few don't just influence laws, they write them. Where they don't just benefit from policies, they create them. Where state power isn't just swayed by wealth, it's wielded by it. Sounds familiar? Well, over 2,300 years ago, in his great work Politics, Aristotle identified a system of government he called oligarchy, rule by the wealthy few. Based on his studies of history and politics, he described how this system arises, how it maintains power, and why it's inherently unstable. As you read Aristotle's description of oligarchy, you might start to recognize some unsettling parallels to your own society today. From the concentration of wealth to the influence of money in politics, Aristotle's ancient insights in many ways feel eerily modern. So in the next few minutes, we'll break down Aristotle's blueprint of oligarchy, perhaps uncovering how its ancient patterns may still occasionally echo in the corridors of power today. To understand Aristotle's view of oligarchy, we first need to understand his categories of regime types. In his typical systematic approach, Aristotle identified 6 distinct types of government, divided into 2 categories. There are the true forms and their perverted counterparts.
Welcome to Wix Harmony, where you and AI work together to build a unique brand.
Within the 3 true forms, we have monarchy first. In its ideal form, the monarch would be virtuous and govern for the common good. Next is aristocracy, which is ruled by a select few. For Aristotle, these aren't just the wealthy or the well-born, but the aristos, meaning the best, most virtuous, and most capable members of society.
And that's going to be the elect, all right, in the righteous setup. Yahweh Shah is going to be the main monarch, all right, and the first fruits are going to be those aristocrats. And we'll do a separate lesson just going into aristocracy, all right, because that's how we're going to govern, okay, and it's going to be in righteousness, okay, but a oligarchy is the exact opposite of it, okay, because Esau is the opposite of righteousness, okay. Jacob and Esau, they're 2 opposites, okay. So Esau, his rulership is the wicked deviant, okay, of a righteous rulership. All right. So Lord will tap into that, go into aristocracy.
The third true form is what Aristotle called polity, sometimes translated as constitutional government. This is a mixed system, blending elements of democracy and oligarchy, but with a strong legal basis that prevents any powerful group from abusing the others. Now, for each of these, Aristotle identified a corresponding perverted form, a government that shares similarities with its true counterpart, but has deviated from the path of virtue and common good. Monarchy's corrupt twin is tyranny, as I presented in a previous video, and democracy is seen by Aristotle as the perverted form of polity. It's ruled by the masses, but without the legal limits of the polity, where decisions are driven by the majority's desires rather than the common good. For Aristotle, this often leads to demagoguery, instability, and the erosion of justice. And finally, we come to oligarchy. As Aristotle notes, the poor and the rich fight with each other, and whichever side wins doesn't set up a fair or popular government. Instead, they see political power as their prize for winning, and one side sets up democracy, while the other sets up an oligarchy. Remember, aristocracy is ruled by the aristos, or the best. Oligarchy, on the other hand, is a perversion of this ideal. In an oligarchy, focus shifts from the welfare of the community to the interests of the rulers themselves. It's no longer about who is most capable or most dedicated to the common good, but about who has the most money or property. In aristocracy, leaders are chosen based on their ability to govern well and their commitment to the public interest. In oligarchy, the path to power is paved with gold, and the purpose of rule becomes the preservation and expansion of the ruler's wealth and influence. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process from usually polity, democracy, or aristocracy, and often subtle at first. Perhaps wealth starts as just one factor among many in selecting leaders, but over time, it becomes the dominant or even sole criterion. Or maybe virtuous leaders slowly begin to prioritize their own interests over those of the community. Aristotle noted that oligarchies, like tyrannies, are forms of government where power is used to benefit those in control rather than the broader community. So both systems are self-serving, but while tyranny is ruled by one person and his close circle, an oligarchy is ruled by a few more individuals. But more importantly, tyrants often rely on military force, whereas oligarchs first and foremost gain and maintain their power through their wealth. This is sometimes written into the law, but often it's just based on informal influence, which leads to laws and policies that favor the wealthy. The main point is that power is kept within the wealthy few, either.
And real quick, all right, just to show you, because he said the oligarchy, rules by, more economical, means, than just straight military. All right. And this is one of the main, okay, tactics of, these ruling elites, these banking families. Everyone's a debt slave, to where you're so occupied in debt, you can do nothing else but worry about the debt, Proverbs 22:7, the rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. So the rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. And this is the style, of tyranny, that the oligarchs use is economic tyranny, to where they have it figured out, dealing with wages, all right, where you're spending all this time. And first, they took away people's autonomy to be self-sufficient, people's ability to be self-sufficient, to be able to people's ability to be able to produce their own resources on their property. That's a rare thing now. Most people live in an industrial, commercial style, all right, life, man. To where they give their labor to industry, all right, and their goods are given to them through these commercial businesses, man. And in that system, all right, this devil has leverage, because he controls the money. You see, and because he controls the money, the wages, the inflation, you see, He can always have leverage, and he can create a system that keeps people poor, which is extremely wicked. All right, keep you poor and in debt, so he can have the leverage, man. So you can be dependent on him, and that's what gives this devil the control. And that's why even with the C hip, all right, one of the main things about the C hip is what being able to what buy and sell. Okay, so you go here real quick. All right, and this devil has full control over people's ability to buy and sell. And you had this devil, all right, Mayor Amsher Rothschild, which he began the Rothschild banking cartel, okay, with his 5 sons, okay, and this is one of these top families amongst these elite families is the Rothschilds, man, okay, and he made the quote, he said, "Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who write the laws," because he knows if he controls the money, he controls the people who make the laws, okay, and this video is going to get into it. All right, so I just want to go into that, but this video is going to get into it. So let's get back, to the video.
Through high property qualifications for holding office, or by making the process of running for office too expensive for most people. This financial control allows them to operate within existing legal and political systems, manipulating these systems to suit their needs. This gives oligarchies an appearance of legitimacy, making them seem more stable than tyrannies, but Aristotle still considered them unstable at their core. Oligarchs are skilled at using their political power to protect and grow their wealth. They might pass laws that give them lucrative government contracts, protect business monopolies, or create regulations that limit competition. These tactics can sometimes lead to supreme oligarchy, where the wealthy have unchecked power and ignore any appearance of cultural or constitutional limits. In these cases, decisions are made solely for the benefit of the ruling elite rather than for the good of society. This disregard for the common good is another trait that oligarchies share with tyrannies, making them similarly dangerous to a state's stability. Also, like tyrants, oligarchs tend to distrust the general population. They might disarm the common people and hire foreign mercenaries to guard against potential uprisings. This reflects their very real fear of losing.
And this is where we are now, okay, where these oligarchs, all right, these elite families, these elite Edomite families have unchecked power. That's why you're seeing, you got Elon Musk, which he's a dweeb, he just set up, his grandfather on his mother's side was, a part of this technocracy cult, okay, going back to the 1930s, okay, so he's just a descendant of, these insiders, these certain, people that, are linked in, with these higher up families, man, okay, so they put, Elon Musk, these little flunkies like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, these are all flunkies of these elite families, man. Okay, that they put out there. You see, but like when you see Elon Musk, how he was in the White House, okay, and just treating, Trump like a do boy. Okay. They were showing you that look, we run this, all right, and our power is unchecked. Okay, we treat your president like a chump. Okay, so let's play some more.
In control, leading them to keep the poor at bay, sometimes even pushing them out of cities by making urban living too expensive, or taking more direct measures to maintain their grip on power. Aristotle pointed out that oligarchy isn't a single uniform system, but rather a spectrum with different types. On one end, there are extreme forms where only the very richest have power. In other forms, a small, powerful minority controls the government, and while it might seem open to those with modest wealth, it remains firmly in the hands of a gatekeeping inner circle. So how do these oligarchies come to power? Aristotle explained that it often starts with a gradual shift. A small group of people begin to accumulate more wealth, which in turn allows them to gain more political influence. As their power grows, they shape policies and institutions in ways that further increase their wealth, creating a cycle where wealth leads to power and power leads to more wealth. A system that seems democratic or aristocratic can start to slide into oligarchy without most people noticing. Over time, certain signs become clearer. The wealthiest begin to control all key government roles and institutions. Merit and ability become less important than wealth for gaining leadership positions. And the idea that economic inequality also justifies political inequality becomes more accepted.
This is my team, and we get everything done with Monday.com. Sarah is a senior project manager, and she has never.
Once an oligarchy is established, the people in power use several tactics to keep their hold on power. First, they use state power to keep class distinctions in place, reinforcing social barriers that prevent people from moving up. This might involve controlling the education system to ensure that only their children can afford the opportunities for leadership roles, or enacting laws that make it harder for those born into lower classes to build wealth or social status. Gradually, oligarchies take control over the legal system and lawmaking process. They shape laws to serve their interests, often claiming they are just protecting property rights or maintaining economic stability. This can mean taxes that benefit the wealthy, or regulations that protect their businesses from competition. Eventually, the wealthy begin to exert influence over all crucial aspects of society, perhaps the primary industries, major trade routes, or the means of cultural production. Furthermore, oligarchies rely on strong alliances among elites. These aren't just political alliances, but also social and economic connections, like intermarriage between powerful families, shared business interests, and exclusive clubs. These connections create a tightly knit ruling class that works together to maintain its control. Over time, this concentration of power and wealth often leads to a decline in public virtue, where personal gain takes priority over the common good among all members of society. At this point, you might be wondering how these ancient insights apply to the world around us. While Aristotle was examining the city-states of ancient Greece, his observations on oligarchy were remarkably astute and perhaps relevant to a few other societies throughout history. Let's consider some signs that might indicate the presence of oligarchic tendencies. First, look at laws and regulations that benefit the wealthy at the expense of the general populace or society at large. This isn't always obvious. It might be hidden in complex tax codes or subtle regulatory structures. Imagine, for instance, a tax code that allows owners of luxury yachts to claim significant deductions while providing no comparable options for ordinary citizens. Next, examine economic policies. Do they tend to increase concentration of wealth? Aristotle noted that oligarchies use their power to further enrich themselves. Consider a hypothetical society where government consistently bails out large corporations, which hits the general population with inflation, higher taxes, and reduced public services. Over time, this could lead to increased wealth concentration. Another key indicator is access to political office. In a true oligarchy, only the wealthy can realistically attain positions of power. As mentioned, this might not be an explicit law, but picture a hypothetical political system where running for office requires million personal funds or backing from wealthy donors. This effectively restricts political participation to the rich or those supported by the rich. Related to this is the question of who has genuine access to lawmakers and regulators. In an oligarchic system, the wealthy few have the ear of those in power, while ordinary citizens struggle to make their voices heard. Imagine a scenario where industry leaders regularly hold private meetings with lawmakers and powerful bureaucrats to discuss policy, while requests for meetings from ordinary citizens and smaller organizations are usually denied or ignored. Also look for a so-called revolving door between government and the private sector. If you see a constant flow of individuals moving between positions of political power and high-level corporate roles, that might indicate the kind of close alliance between wealth and governance that Aristotle associated with oligarchy. Picture a situation where a high-ranking official in the finance ministry leaves his post for a lucrative position in a major bank, or a former minister getting hired in a corporation within his former portfolio. Social mobility is another crucial factor. Aristotle understood that oligarchies work to maintain class distinctions. Consider a hypothetical society where the cost of education has skyrocketed to the point where only the children of wealthy families can attend universities without incurring crippling debt, thereby limiting opportunities for advancement for those from less affluent backgrounds. Remember, Aristotle didn't see these as isolated factors. but as symptoms of a political system that prioritizes the interests of the wealthy few over the common good. No society perfectly fits any single model of governance, and elements that might appear oligarchic could exist within various other political systems. The key is to look at the overall pattern and to consider how political and economic power are distributed and used. The good news is that Aristotle found oligarchies to be inherently unstable, second only to tyrannies in their short lifespan. The bad news is that they are often replaced by another perverted form of government. He
Yeah,
recognized
that
that
pretty much
political
explains it. There's another 2 minutes left, but that pretty much explains the point, because we're seeing all these things in place today, to where only the wealthy can even afford, all right, government office. Okay. You have to be either wealthy yourself, and you have to be inherently wealthy, okay, or you have to be endorsed by the wealthy, okay. But no person, like they used to tell us you know in elementary, like everybody had a chance. Every U.S. citizen had a chance to be the president. You can be the president. You get up there. What do you want to be? I want to be the president of the United States, nigga. Nah, okay, never, nigga. Nah. I was watching this video. I'm thinking that them nigga used to tell us that at school. Jake used to get up there talking about, nigga, absolutely not. Okay. So when you go here, just look at the list of rich American politicians. It says as of late 2025, the wealthiest American politicians are largely concentrated within the incoming Trump administration. Trump brought in all the oligarchs, man. Okay, he brought their flunkies in, their representatives. These people that we see are these certain people that represent these oligarchies. Okay, it says because if you can see them, they don't run nothing. All right, the people that they're linked in with, okay, and place them in those positions, those are the people that are making the calls. Okay, it said featuring numerous billionaires. Elon Musk leads with a net worth over 300 million. Okay, now when you go down and just look, okay, this is only for the wealthy, the super duper rich. Okay, to be in office. Now look at the officials. Elon Musk, all right, 342 billion, all right, to 439 billion. Tillman Fertitta, ambassador appointee, 11.3 billion. Joe Gibbia, another Doge appointee, 8.3 billion. Melinda Highlandbrand, ambassador, okay, appointee, 7.7 billion. Donald Trump, 5.1 billion. So the president, all right, he's like number 5 on the list, man, showing you that he's just a do boy in the mix. Okay, you don't get in office and you don't just jump off the couch, or you know you just this you just work your way up through politics. Those stories that they tell you about these people working their way through politics, and being this great governor, you know, of Texas for 8 years. He did such a great job that he rallied. They rallied around him, and they pushed for him to run the president, and he run. And he won because of his abilities as a governor, and he was a congressman, and he did this and he did that, and he did this for the people, and they give you all these fluff stories behind these presidents, man. These people are selected and groomed way before they become president by these oligarchs, man. Okay, they give you these fluff stories about, all right, these tech CEOs. Okay, no, they just are appointed, okay, by the oligarchs to represent this technology, man. Okay, Steven Feinberg was this sound, and a lot of these are small hats. Defense appointee, 5 billion. Okay, Leandro Rizzuta Jr., and bachelor appointee 3.5 billion, man. Okay, and these are all, when it says appointee, they appointed by Trump. Okay, Trump brought all the oligarchs to the White House, man. Okay, they're representatives, man. Warren Stevens, 3.4 billion. Howard Lutnick, all right, Commerce Secretary, 3.2 billion. Okay, Linda McMahon, okay, the wife of Vince McMahon from WWF Wrestling, man, 3 billion. Steve Witkoff, 2 billion. Charles Kushner, okay, 1.8 billion. Okay, Jared Isaacman. And a lot of these are small hats, man. 1.8 billion. Amalek, okay. Kelly Loeffler, 1.3 billion. Well, she's SBA administrator, SEC chairman appointee, 1 point. Yeah, man. Doge Lee, 1 billion. You see? Then you get to the congressmen, they're worth tens of millions of dollars. Okay, they get to do inside trading on the stock, man. So this is just corruption on a whole nother level. It's an oligarchy, man. These are the people. All right, you don't get in this. All right, you don't work your way up from, being a local city councilman, then you was a mayor, then you, okay. And the people that they put these people in these positions where they work their way up through these so-called, all right, these certain uh political offices, start off as a mayor, or a governor, or a congressman, or you see, they work in this part of government for a while, and this part, they was already set up for them to work their way to president, man, by these oligarchs, man. Okay, so let's go here. Okay, so let's get a few precepts. I just want to bring that out, and it's a documentary. I want to show this real quick too. And it's a good documentary to watch. I just wanted to mention this for brothers that might be into these documentaries. It's on Prime, all right, and it's called "The Men Who Built America." All right, it said the primary documentary series. So there's a Prime Video documentary. It's called "The Men Who Built America," and it says which chronicles the lives of Vanderbilt, Carnegie, Rockefeller, Ford, and Morgan. Okay, so when you go into it, it gives the story these men, and they was some cutthroats, man. It's pretty interesting. So you brothers are interesting to that, the men who built America, and it gives you these certain, families. All right, Rockefeller, Carnegie, Vanderbilt, Ford, Morgan. Okay, these are oligarchs, man. All right, so it's a pretty good watch, for brothers into that. I just want to put that out there. But let's get a few precepts. We'll close it out. Just um let's go. Let's go here. And this is why we see, because Habakkuk really explained. Let's go to Habakkuk. Habakkuk really, when you go into it, it's explaining, a wicked oligarchy. All right, because America's ran by oligarchs, man. So you go here to Habakkuk 2:4. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith, man. Because we are captive to this wicked oligarchy, man, of Edom. And we're at the tail of this society. Well, through faith, man, we believe, as it says in the scripture, that the first is going to be last. These oligarchs, which are first, these Edomites, they're going to be last, and the last shall be first, man. We believe that. We believe that the Lord is going to come and set the earth back in righteousness, man. All right, Yahushua is coming to establish a righteous throne in the earth, man. We believe that, man. Okay? It says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. Also because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man, neither keep it at home. Okay, and these devils have, become so powerful and wealthy, all right, and have so much influence that they just go around the earth. That's why this new world order is global. Okay, this are they become so powerful that now because this new world order, the oligarchs want to carve up the earth unto themselves, man. You see, the new world, the old world is, you have the French government, the British government, these European governments, America, and this government. Nah, man, they want to carve the earth up amongst these oligarchs, man. Okay, that's why you have these 10 kingdom, new world order theories. What is it? Say they want to carve the earth up in 10 different regions. Okay, who you going to think who's going to run those regions, man? Who will run those regions? It will be oligarchs, man. These certain families. Okay, so this man now, what they call transnational. Okay, these oligarchs, because oligarchs used to be, confined within a nation's government. You have the oligarchs of French, the oligarchs of Russia, different oligarchs of this nation and that nation, but now they're transnational, okay, to where they're buying up the world, okay? They're just, hoarding all the world's wealth to themselves, man. That's what you see a lot of these military, all right, conflicts be, okay, on behalf of the oligarchs, man. Them stealing resources, because once they destabilize a country, what companies come in? The companies of the oligarchs. And extrapolate the resources, man. So a lot of these conflicts and keeping the world destabilized and always at war, well, it benefits the oligarchs. All right, it's extremely destructive, okay, to the masses, but it benefits the few. All right, these few wicked Edomites, man. Okay, it said, neither keep it at home who enlarges his desire as hell, and his death and cannot be satisfied, but gather unto him all nations and heaping unto him all people. Okay, and America has been a big tool to do that, man, to subdue the earth. That's why they pour so much into American military. That's why American the DOD, all right, the Department of Defense has a blank check for its budget, man. Okay, they just go up another 100 billion every year because they got a blank check when it comes to defense spending because they've been doing the bidding of the elites, man. Okay, they serve the interests of the elites. Okay, the oligarchs, man. Okay, Habakkuk 2:6. Shall not all these take up parables against him? And see, now we're seeing, okay, friction. You see, we're seeing real friction between these nations. Okay, and all these moves are being made for war, man. This is these nations taking a parable against him, man. Okay, it says in a taunting proverb against him and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long, and him that laded himself with thick clay. Okay, and through this system, the earth is trillions of dollars in debt to the banking families, man, to these elite families, man. Okay, and America is just is in the most debt, and America can run on debt because it's propped up by this system of being the world reserve currency, man. To where the dollar will always be in demand, no matter how much. All right, America's in debt. Okay, that's why what you see them doing to collapse the dollar is taking away the demand from the dollar. Okay, and they're intentionally doing that to collapse it. All right, Habakkuk 2:7 says, shall not they rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shall be for booties unto them. So now we're finna see these nations go to war. Okay, all this, underhanded, treachery, okay, scheming and plotting, and okay, amongst these elite few, okay, we're just gonna lead to a war that they can't manage, man. Okay, it says, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood and for the violence of the land of the city and all that they're in and see America has been the hammer that these elites have been using, all right, to bully the nations. And now these nations are rising up, okay, to bully, all right, America, man. All right, to take, okay, to take America as a spoil, okay, through war, okay. So read verse 9. It says, woe to him that coveted an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil, man. And these elites think that, they're not going to have to deal with the fallout, okay, of this big mess that they made, man. That's why I said, woe, destruction, okay. And this devil is covetous, man. He wants to, just take everything. Okay, he wants everything, man, even your thoughts. He don't even want you to have a thought to yourself, man. All right, and he thinks that he's going to, be able to avoid judgment and everything that he's doing. This big mess that he made, and these elites, because they're used to standing on the outside looking in at the chaos. All right, but the Lord is going to put them in the mix, man. Okay, they're going to be reserved from the destruction, but they're going into captivity. Okay, they're going into captivity, man, for this big mess that they made. These oligarchs are going into captivity. Okay, and these nations finna wage a war on America, and Yahweh Shah finna wage a nation. I mean, like Yahweh Shah finna wage a war on these nations, man. Okay, and this is how this is getting played. This is what's gonna play out in the earth, man. Okay, so. Man, family finish on says, thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, has sinned against thy soul. Man, this man Esau has a lot of blood on his hand, man. This man has terrorized the earth, with his power and his wealth. All right. He's been out of pocket his whole rulership, man. Okay, and his tab has just been building up for judgment, man. It said, for the stone shall cry out the wall, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it. And you get this in the let's get this in the NLT. It might be the AMP. Let me see. Okay. Oh, damn, where you go? Yeah. All right. So you go to Habakkuk 2 and 11. I think it's the AMP, so like it coming. So Habakkuk 2 and 11 in the AMP. And it said, for the stone will cry out, all right, from the wall to accuse you, built in sin. Okay, so this devil's infrastructure, everything that he's built up, okay, which he's gotten it by ill-gotten gains. Okay, he's gotten it by pure wickedness, man. Okay, through oppression, through deception, through blood, It said, for the stone will cry from the wall to accuse you. So this infrastructure, everything the devil has built up, okay, is built in wickedness, is built in sin. And it's accusing, it's an accuser to this devil, man. It says, and the rafter will answer out of the woodwork. It says, woe, judgment is coming to him who builds a city with bloodsheds and establish a town in violence, man. And it's these oligarchs that's behind these wars. That's why you have a thing called All Wars Are Banker Wars. It's a documentary, pretty good documentary as well. Okay, just type it in, All Wars Are Banker Wars. Okay, and it explains how the bankers are in the background of all these wars, man. Okay, so this everything that this devil has built up, all this technology, AI, data centers, he's built it in complete wickedness, man. And it's been with taxpayers' money. A lot of this wickedness that he doesn't even spend his own money. A lot of this devil's, wickedness is on the taxpayers' dime. And even with these data centers, man. All that he's putting that on taxpayers, man. Okay, even the bills, the light bill, everyone's light bill going up because of a data center. Okay, so everything this devil is doing is building up. He got going on is going to witness against this devil, man, in the time of judgment, man. And this is where we at. All right, so just wanted to get into that, Lord will, you brothers, and you sisters edified. Till next time, I say shalom. Kwame Shalom, Bible, Baal, soon, shalom.